We're sitting at the midpoint of August with a little over 2 weeks before we see off the month of August. Good evening and welcome to our midweek edition of Primetime News. Standing in for my colleague Selima Chimwefalini Masipa, I'm Michael Madimba. Leading tonight's bulletin, the discovery of oil and gas in Namibia has raised prospects for economic growth, but Mines and Energy Minister Tom Alwendo has warned that this is not a guarantee that the nation's socio-economic problems will be solved. Alwendo made these remarks during the opening day of the two-day oil and gas conference in the capital earlier today. Let's listen in.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, the first one, as I said, oil is not an automatic remedy to all our challenges that we have today. The oil and gas discovery in commercial quantities obviously have raised our expectations that we are going to have significant revenues, and we are also going to have employment being created in the sector, like it was actually shown there by Shuana. Indeed, the discoveries hold a great potential to improve our socio-economic challenges. However, the development of the sector is inherently associated with uncertainties and complexities. One can think of uncertainties associated with issues such as of that quantity, like it was said, we are doing appraisal to determine that quantity, the quality of the oil that has been discovered, what will be the production rate of the oil, what will be the price, and some of these uncertainties can actually remain with the production or with the sector during the lifetime of the oil production project. And therefore we need to be aware of that. There is those uncertainties and complexities. Therefore, poor management of the oil and gas sector can drive corruption and inequality that in turn will fuel social tensions and can threaten our political stability.
Minister of Environment, Forestry and Tourism Pohamba Shifeta on Tuesday launched the Tourism Statistics Report for 2022 in the capital. Shifeta noted Namibia's tourism sector stands a chance to equally benefit from opportunities by the domestic and inter-regional markets. Let's have a listen.
Finally, let me now launch this Tourism Statistics 2022. The report highlights and summarizes tourist arrivals in the country and also includes variables such as age group, gender, point of entry, purpose of visit, country of origin, and also to some extent the sector's performance as an economic driver of this country. These statistics are crucial in the planning and enhancement of our tourism sector, as well as the evaluation of the effect and the impact of our collective interventions and the programs to grow the sector. Namibia was among one of those first countries in SADC region to open its borders after COVID-19 pandemic, and I'm proud to report that both government and the private sector efforts are gradually bearing positive results towards regaining our international tourist figures of 2018.
At the same briefing, Minister Pohamba Shifeta revealed that Namibia witnessed an increase in tourist arrivals in 2022, with 461,027 tourist arrivals compared to 232,756 tourists received in 2021. Once more, let's listen in.
This figure indicates a 28.9% recovery level from the annual tourist arrivals of 2019. Many factors contributed to the positive growth trend. This, amongst others, is the overall confidence of tourists in our destination Namibia, ease of access to the country, reformed visa regime, availability of more airline seats to Namibia, aggressive marketing and promotional campaigns, presence and participation at international platforms, hosting of business meetings, events, the increase in the country's brand awareness globally, and also quality of experience and offering, etc., etc. In summary, South Africa, Angola, Germany, Zambia, Botswana, France, UK, United States, Italy, and Switzerland makes up the top 10 tourist source markets for Namibia 2022.
Moving on. Speaker of the National Assembly, Peter Kashavivi, has highlighted the importance of reinforcing efforts to combat all forms of discrimination against women in Parliament. Kashavivi expressed his sentiments during the opening of the 3-day workshop on gender mainstreaming and responsive budgeting in Swakopmund on Tuesday, adding the issue is an ongoing struggle that should have been dealt with by now. Our Erongo-based correspondent Isabel Bento filed this report.
And gender-responsive budgeting aimed at reinforcing efforts to combat all forms of discrimination against women. This is a struggle. It's a lifelong struggle that started way back, and by now sometimes we ought to feel that we are making progress. But it is a struggle that requires national institutions like Parliament to be at the forefront of this important fight. Through the course of the 2 days we are going to be here, we will reflect on gender equality, gender mainstreaming, and gender-responsive budgeting, empowering female parliamentarians in fostering legislation and policies to promote gender mainstreaming and affirmative action. It is something that sometimes some people say, well, Namibia is now over 30 years as an independent country. How much have we achieved in the area of gender representation, gender equality? I normally say it is ongoing, struggle. It is a process that has to continuously be revisited in order to make sure that we achieve our goals in these important areas.
Stay tuned for the business segment. Welcome to the Primetime Biz segment where business and economics make headlines. Now, Namibians can breathe a sigh of relief after having waited with bated breath regarding the repo rate announcement by the central bank. Bank of Namibia Governor Johannes Kabakab earlier today announced that the repo rate would remain unchanged at 7.75%. Let's have a listen.
So on the 14th and 15th of August 2023, the Monetary Policy Committee, the MPC of the Bank of Namibia, held its bi-monthly meeting to decide on the appropriate monetary policy stance to to be implemented over the next 2 months. To continue safeguarding the peg between the Namibia dollar and the South African rand and supporting the domestic economy, the MPC decided to keep the repo rate unchanged at 7.75%. This decision was taken following a comprehensive review of global, regional, and domestic economic developments. Let us consider the domestic developments that informed this decision. Namibia's real gross domestic product picked up during the first quarter of 2023 and remained robust year to date. Inflation pressure softened in July 2023, while private sector credit extension growth remained weak. The merchandise trade deficit narrowed, and the stock of international reserves remained sufficient to support the currency peg and meet the country's international financial obligations. The recently released national accounts data indicated the Namibian economy grew by 5% during the first quarter of 2023, higher than the 2.1% in the final quarter of 2022.
Minister of Finance and Public Enterprises Ipumbu Shimi says Namibia should work to achieve broad-based economic growth, which is now fueled by the mining industry. Shimi added the local economy has experienced excellent growth over the previous 2 years, albeit not balanced. Linia Tishina compiled this report.
The minister, during a consultation on the mid-term budget review with civil society organization here on Monday, said that the local economy had experienced positive growth during the past 2 years. The economy grew by 3.5% in 2021 and 4.6% last year. Shimi said they have not seen these numbers in quite a long time. But I should hasten to say that growth is still not balanced. It is coming from the mining sector, and the mining sector is not a big employer of people. So it is contributing to the GDP of the country, but is very concentrated, he said. According to the minister, inflation is still the largest threat to the world economy. But the fortunate thing is that we have started seeing a downward trend with regard to inflation, he said. However, Shimi cautioned that a drop in inflation does not mean prices are going to decrease. It just means that they are going to grow at a slower pace than before. Reporting for Primetime News, Ishmael Mukuvonda.
That concludes our top news segment for tonight. Up next is your weather forecast, followed by the Econ Roundup. welcome to Sport Planet, your go-to segment for all things sport in action. The Ministry of Sport, Youth and National Service's failure to allocate sufficient funds has resulted in minimal progress towards the construction of a statue dedicated to Namibian sprinter Frank Fredericks. Let's listen into a portion of this exclusive interview.
There was a cabinet resolution, I think, that was passed on putting a statue of Frankie Fredericks at the stadium. How far are we with that?
To tell you the truth, we have not even started. We have not started. It is there, but we are still, I don't know, doing what and what, but we have not started with that one. And it is important that we also start with that one. Maybe, let me put it maybe, now if we do the stadium going outside, we might think of that one now also coming in.
Okay. But since it was, what was the main hiccup on that, like the Frankie Frederick one? What stopped it? Was there no funds for it, or somebody was not appointed, or it just what was mentioned and it was through all these other engagements, it was not just...
I think it was a good idea, and it is still a good idea. It was taken up to the cabinet. Cabinet gave the go-ahead, but it was never budgeted for. And if you don't budget for anything, I bring you and say, start the thing, then you say, let's talk about the money, and then is the money not there? That was it. And up till now, I haven't seen in any budget that one. Maybe from now that you have come up with this and reminded us from now on further, it might become.
Meanwhile, Minister of Sport, Youth and National Service Agnes Shongarero says her wishes to see the newly appointed commissioners at the Namibia Sport Commission address various issues and improve policies at the Commission. Shongarero said this in a recent exclusive interview with Sport Planet. Now, the minister is tasked with appointing 5 commissioners from the various sporting federations, while the other 4 positions should be applied for as stipulated in the Public Enterprises Governance Act of 2019.
With this new budget?
It is now for those, the board members now. They must now prioritize and say, how do we go about with this money? Less traveling for the commissioners, or even the chief administrator, whoever, anybody from the sport commission to travel less and take that money and give it to the federations. Because in Namibia, we're supposed to have, from the ministry side, sport officers. It's not useful for somebody from Winter to travel around to the regions. No, we've got sport officers. We must just cooperate with those sport officers on the ground and use that money where somebody from Winter travels to Katima to what and go and what, look at what. Use that money and give it to the federation so that they can at least assist themselves with administration and those type of things. But it doesn't happen because most of the time, from the commission itself, there are a lot of people traveling. You wonder where are they going, what are they going to do? It's not just the airfare, it's also accommodation, it's many things. And all the money goes there in there instead of going to the federations.
Stay tuned for your sports roundup. We've come to the end of the midweek broadcast. Many thanks for always tuning in and much appreciated for your viewership. Do make a date with my colleague Selima Mwefeleni Masipa as he makes a return tomorrow. It's been a pleasure being in your company. From myself, Michael Mandimba, and the entire creative crew behind the scenes, it's good night.